Hey, what's up, everybody? I saw you say an echo in the chat, and that just reminded me to mute the tab that I watched the chat in. So that was, I'm not sure if that's what you meant by that, but thank you. And hello, everybody. Hope you are enjoying your Friday. Hope all is going well as the world continues to burn. Joanne vibration. Nice. I'm muted? No, I'm not muted. You need to turn up your volume, bro. I shouldn't be muted. But yeah, good to see y'all. Oh, okay. See, I'm gullible like that. I'll believe anything. So here we go. We got this guy.
Oh
Yeah,
MDC.
Look, or whatever.
Right at the
guy that snitched on everybody. I don't know why he's in jail. I thought he snitched on everybody to get out of jail. But the reason why I'm playing this is because he was apparently cellmates or something with Maduro, and he got Maduro to sign his SpongeBob.
Gates.
Ridiculous.
Know that. Thank you. Oh, by the way, while you open that, look, 101, Maduro signed it. Maduro, 2nd of April, Venezuela forever. 6'9", 101.
Yeah, look. Like what? I don't even know, man. It's outrageous. And just the fact that it was a SpongeBob, like, if I was locked up with someone like that, I would like to get their autograph for sure. But on a SpongeBob toy, that's hilarious. Yeah, I mean, he's a snitch and a terrible person for sure. It's unfortunate that it's him to kind of like leech off Maduro's aura, I guess you could say. Here's another good one. Apparently, an Iraqi youth is offering an Iranian Shahed drone for sale via a TikTok live stream for only $100, saying that I'm not sure if this is because he he like made it very cheaply. I'm sure that it is not, it's not built like the Iranian ones that are like 20 grand or something, which 20 grand is still a lot cheaper than or a lot cheaper than the US drones. And even in Ukraine right now, people are making up drones at home and sending them to the army and stuff. And they have just tons of drones. They're different types of drones, I think, that they're using. But regardless, this, kind of warfare that our government has optimized for with all of these big, expensive weapons, it might not be the winning strategy anymore. And maybe it hasn't been the winning strategy for a long time. Speaking of winning strategies, here's a good one. JD Vance on childcare. One of the ways that you might be able to relieve a little bit of pressure on people who are paying so much for daycare is make it so that, maybe grandma and grandpa want to help out a little bit more. This is on top of, Trump saying that his new strategy to win people over is going to be increasing the military budget, cutting everything else.
So one of the ways that you might be able to relieve a little bit of pressure on people who are paying so much for daycare is make it so that maybe like grandma or grandpa wants to help out a little bit more, or maybe there's an aunt or uncle that wants to help out a little bit more. If that happens, you relieve some of the pressure on all the resources that we're spending in daycare.
Wild, these people. He's done. Like, he thinks he's going to be able to, be the president or run for president. I don't even think he's going to make it through the primaries if he does. Here's Seth Harp. He's the guy that wrote the Fort Bragg cartel book. I sourced this a bit in my drug war video that I put out. But never heard of what? Oh, the video of no, I'm not sure. It seemed new to me, but it could be old. I sometimes find repeated stuff, but I think that was all new. But yeah, I sourced his book quite a bit, Seth Harp, and so this is like a translation from France, and if anybody else is having any audio issues with the audio, please let me know. So yeah, this is translated from French, so I'm trusting Seth Harp on this. But apparently, somebody from France said, a French general said, American officials should stop snorting cocaine between meetings on this newscast here.
Je vois un planificateur qui me dit j'ai une idée géniale, chef, et puis il suffit de faire une base aérienne complète, etc. Je dis il faut arrêter de sniffer la coque sur le bureau entre deux réunions. Ça, c'est pas possible. Ça, c'est pas possible.
Here's another winning strategy from Trump as well, which I don't care about this because I'm not a sports guy, but I do think this is hilarious. And I feel like I was just making fun of this the other day about how America always has to do something different. Like the whole world calls something football. We call we make an entirely different sport and call it football, and then start calling it soccer. And we have them, the opposite of the metric system and all of this, all of these things that Americans do. I think it might just be you. Everybody else seems to be hearing it all right. But yeah, so Trump says maybe we should just call it soccer and find another, or call it football, call soccer football, and then come up with another name for the NFL stuff. So this is obviously because of the whole FIFA thing. They gave him a big prize and probably a bunch of money, I'm guessing.
When you look at what has happened to football in the United States, is again soccer in the United States. We seem to never call it that because we have a little bit of a conflict with another thing that's called football. But when you think about it, shouldn't it really be called? I mean, this is football. There's no question about it. We have to come up with another name for the NFL stuff.
Yeah.
It really doesn't make sense when you think about it.
Yeah, that's hilarious. Like, if you want to piss off like the average American, that's a good way to do it. I believe that this is the first time that Jamie Dimon from JP Morgan has been asked about Epstein to his face on camera. I don't remember another occasion. At least this is the first sit-down interview that I've noticed.
Well thought through. I'll ask a question about the nature of power and this city that I get from a lot of people. You guys banked Jeffrey Epstein, but you've talked about, you guys had settlements on that. I don't want to talk about that. I want to go a layer deeper. Like, the powerful, you've banked a lot of these people, you hang out with a lot of these people. It's not just that Jeffrey Epstein was like a bad guy. He was like a burn in hell for eternity, awful human being. And people knew about it, and they still socialized. They still did business with him. Like, why were people so quick and easy to forgive his sins?
Well, I don't think they were. In 2008, he went to jail for prostitution or something like that, which wasn't considered a terrible.
Come on now. Prostitution or something like that. It's very strange how people just point to that. In a minute, he is going to qualify that statement, but still, like,
terrible crime of some sort. If you actually read, and then one of the mistakes we made, if you actually read what they call it, the pleadings, they
Yeah.
were pretty clear that it was much worse than that. That they settled here, but they thought here. And the other thing, you guys,
He said the mistake right there in that little thing. He said that the mistake that they made was like, not looking into the charges. They just saw, face value the prostitution charge and didn't actually look into, the case, even though I believe it was pretty heavily reported, even at the time, that this was an underage kind of thing.
be asking is, the government knew a lot. Why didn't the government do something about it? All those years he was abusing these young women from, they knew. So, but you're right. I think someone wrote a great article today. It was more about his connections, that why all these people got together, and it was embarrassing for them, and I don't know why. I think some people, they'll do anything to be in the inside club or something like that. And introducing people. I think some people they're innocent. They didn't know. Some knew.
didn't, but if you were in Palm Beach, you knew he was running a Ponzi scheme with these young women coming in and out, and yet people continue to do. It's so.
I agree. I agree. I think it's why people like him stay away from someone like me, because I would have been like, what the hell are you doing? I learned this lesson years ago that if someone calls me, if you called me up and said you want to introduce me to so-and-so to dine and meet, my answer would be to you, here's my telephone number, have them call me directly. I wouldn't put up with like being introduced to people by people for very reasons like that.
I wouldn't put up with being introduced to people by people.
Oh, and
I can't believe that statement.
I don't want to be in between, or like someone's doing a favor for someone, or sometimes you don't even is true. Like they're asking me to call that person, or can I bring them by? I'm like, well,
yeah, that's kind of a wild one. There was something else I was just looking up in relation to that case that had something to do with it, but now I can't find it. It does definitely give those kind of vibes for sure of Howard Lutnick. Like, and there was another guy that said something. Yeah, exactly. And the young women thing, very, very similar. I'm trying to find that other detail that was related to that. What? It was in regards to the early cases against him. That was it. First mention, I think a Jmail shared it of Epstein online, because it was in two. Here we go. I found it. Share tab instead. So this is 2007. This is immediately after he gets arrested. According to Jmail, this is the first ever mention of Jeffrey Epstein on Twitter. It's a story from Gothamist. It says, woman sues billionaire over unnatural sex acts. Jeffrey Epstein, the billionaire investor. So, you're dealing with somebody on a very high business level. You kind of tend to do some due diligence, especially if you're a person as successful as Jamie Dimon. But yeah, I think that he's probably going to have to speak on this again. A lot of these, because who knows even what's up with these extra files that are going to come out someday, even though the Trump administration has kind of said that they're going to pretty much bury it. So yeah, I was just talking about the FIFA and soccer, the World Cup and all that. Apparently there were Iraqi soccer fans that were coming here traveling for the World Cup, which is a very brave thing to do right now. And there was a crowd waiting for them, or at least there was one person waiting for them. We'll have to watch the video here in a minute. Harassing them, starting trouble with them, tearing up their homemade banner that was written in Arabic and Spanish, and yelling, "You're in America. You don't come to America and do that." I guess he was offended by the non-English characters on there. Psychos.
What the fuck? What the fuck? No, you pushing me for no fucking what the fuck? Come. You fuck off. No, you fucking American do that. You fuck off. No, it's a free country. You know?
Is he calling him you fucko? No, this isn't Lang. Seems to just be some random guy.
It's fine. Don't take that exclusion, motherfucker. Piece of shit. Hey.
Yeah, he was some random guy who happened to be coming through the airport. It seemed like he had luggage, and he was upset to see Arabic writing on a banner.
Fuck off. Get out of here. Piece of
Fucko.
shit. Racist sick. White ass. It's a game. It's a football. This is a game. This is a soccer game.
Yeah, there are a lot of people wiling the fuck out. And I feel like they feel emboldened. They feel like they can get away with this kind of shit in this environment. Especially if they, they have some kind of position and have money.
This is a foreign worker. They play soccer tomorrow with Mexico. You're right, man.
Oh, I think the guy came back and might feel like a dumbass, hopefully.
Yeah, this is not right. It's a football game, sir. He told us something different. Throw the flag on the ground. Oh, we're American, man. Oh, we're American. What the hell is going on? Come on, over. Piece of shit.
That is wild that people are just like seeing another country's flag or another country's language triggers them so much. When, this country is hosting a global sporting event that people are going to be traveling for, representing their teams and such. It's insane. Well, I bet he really don't like that.
This is shit. White ass. Gringo.
Wild behavior. Let's see here. I didn't put my stuff in order today because I was rushing around a little bit. But let's take a look at the big story is the planes that got shot down, but I want to catch a couple of other quick stories first. So I mentioned yesterday that Trump is basically really leaning into this whole, we're at war thing. We need money for war. And he's proposing this $1.5 trillion defense budget. And here is some of the things that he is proposing to cut. Cut the EPA budget by half, cut $10.7 billion for housing, cut $8.5 billion for K-12 programs. I guess that's schooling stuff. Cancel $15 billion for clean energy, cut $2.5 billion for clean drinking water, eliminate $1.5 billion for youth job training, cut $3.5 billion for the Labor Department, eliminate $395 million for senior employment, eliminate these sometimes reading numbers out loud is very weird for me. Eliminate $775 million in food assistance grants, eliminate the National Endowment for Democracy, cut $5 billion from the National Institute of Health, eliminate the Low Income Home Energy Assistance Program, LIHEAP. And I'll get into that's apparently like, people who can't afford to heat their homes in the winter. In all, cuts to domestic programs would account for 10% reduction in discretionary spending. So I think, like, up until now, people have been having a very hard time making the connection between all of these wars and all of the nice things that we can't have in this country, whether it is infrastructure or healthcare or, some of the things that we're seeing happening in other countries, like high speed rail and stuff like that, things that other countries are paying for. And yeah, now the quiet part is kind of being said out loud. And I'm still wondering, how this is going, how much people are going to connect with it. It seems like generally people are starting to get it now, but I also am just like, what's the word? Like, I'm not confident in my neighbors. You know what I mean? I'm not confident in the American population to have the attention span and to, keep their mind on an idea long enough, because of the fact that, once people get, like, people are always following the thing that they particularly think is going to benefit at them at that time, and it seems very easy to manipulate people in this country as a whole into thinking that particular things benefit them that actually don't. And I'm hoping that process is coming to an end to some extent, but even the people who have lost faith in Trump, they still hold a lot of the same kind of toxic belief structures that have allowed them to get manipulated by Trump in the first place. So that definitely, I'm optimistic that people are turning on him, but at the same time, I would really like to see some more introspection from those people. I know Mark Andreessen is going to be mad at that, but they need to really look deeper into how they got manipulated into that situation and how they allowed like hatred for other people specifically to lead them into those negative paths. And I'm hoping we can grow on from that. But I have hoped that many times before and been disappointed. But we always got to have hope. That's why I continue to do this. So this is a little bit more about that heating program. It is basically for seniors, children, and disabled people who rely on assistance to heat and cool their homes. And this is just like wild, random shit to be cutting that hurts the most vulnerable people among us, which is kind of the strategy of this administration, it seems. I mean, it seems. I shouldn't hedge. I guess I don't have to hedge that one. Yeah, that's a good reason. I've seen some people like say they were turning on Trump because he's not deporting enough people, and I'm like, what is wrong with what is, what is wrong with this country? So yeah, I have a couple clips that I collected. I haven't watched all of them, so I'm not sure if all of them are going to be great, but let's take a look. This is on the military purge that's currently going on with Hexeth, and this kind of points to, at least the caption anyway, says that there are probably illegal orders that are being refused, and generals that are trying to abide by some semblance of the rules of war, and they're getting let go.
Unfortunately, in the United States right now, the U.S. government consists of 5 or 6 people. There isn't a flow of information up to Donald Trump. He's not getting options papers and intelligence papers. This is a president who is making decisions by the seat of his pants. And we are seeing the results of that every 10 minutes in the headlines.
Given what you've just said there, how does the military cope then with that? We see General Dan Kane at the press conferences with Pete Hegseth, the defense secretary. Serious senior military men and women. I mean, they have to take their orders from him, but presumably is there a limit to that?
Well, this is a particularly timely issue because Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of War, recently fired a key number of Army senior generals. Exactly why is unclear. It may be because they were holdovers from Biden. It may be because they are answering back and expressing some regret or doubts about the way the war is being conducted. We saw during the era in which the United States was hitting speedboats in the Caribbean that were ostensibly running drugs, that the commander of the Southern Command, the person responsible for those operations, resigned. So I think the military it is a functioning institution. It's highly professional. It's very good at what it does. But there's no question in my mind that it is struggling with a leadership that doesn't trust it and a leadership that sometimes makes decisions that are leaving top military officials scratching their head.
Yeah, I don't like it. I think it's very sketchy when you see like a military purge happening. That is not a good sign from history, you know? Oh yeah, I agree. And it has also been so weird today to see all these people who are like, I pray for that pilot that's missing and stuff like that. And it's like, yeah, he was probably on his way to bomb a hospital, you know, like I absolutely have sympathy for people who die in the military and stuff like that. Obviously, I know many people in the anti-war movement that are veterans. There are veterans in this community. When I was working with the Free Thought Project for many, many years, the owner of that website was a veteran who was like extremely anti-war. And so, yeah, it's not like I have like hostility there, but it's, you're probably on your way to bomb a school and you're at the point where you're receiving illegal orders at this point and you're not refusing them. You should be refusing the illegal orders at this point. And I don't really have much sympathy for you if you're getting shot down over somebody else's country trying to, take out schools and hospitals. So, yeah. But before I get too into that, we got a leak of a 911 call from William McClaskin's wife. William McClaskin is the high-ranking defense. What was his exact title? He was like let's see. He was initially kind of being reported as like a UFO researcher for the government. But the real story was that, yes, he did look into, that was one of the things he looked into, but he was also involved in building top secret weapons and stuff like that. Let me just take a look, see what his actual title is. So I'm not, he was an engineer. Yeah. So he was an engineer for the government. For the United States, he was a United States Air Force Major General and a former commander of the Air Force Research Laboratory. And I did a video on the Deep Dives playlist on my page about how not just him, but a bunch of different people involved with this lab and involved with very specific projects have disappeared in the past year or two. Let's take a look at this 911 call.
Help you. Hi, April. My name is Susan Wilkerson. My husband is missing.
Okay.
And it's been about 3 hours, and I have some indication that he must have planned not to be found. He's left his phone. He changed his clothes into I don't know what. I think he's on foot. All of our cars and bicycles are in the garage. I left for a doctor's appointment at about 11:10, and he was here at that time at the house. And I got back from that at noon, and he was gone. He turned it off and left it behind, which seems kind of deliberate because he's always got his phone. He has a smartwatch. I don't know if that's with him or not.
Has he ever done this before?
Never, nothing even remotely like it. He's a retired Air Force Major General. He's very responsible, but
You-
he's also facing some medical issues.
Do you have any video at your home?
No,
Has he been diagnosed with any mental disorders or anything like that?
well, we've been seeing a doc for both physical and mental in terms of anxiety, short-term memory loss, lack of sleep. The same doc I went to see today.
Does he carry any weapons on him?
Well, not generally. He does have a gun safe, and I went to look in the gun safe to see if anything was missing, but I couldn't tell if anything was. He has quite a number of pistols and rifles. Other than saying if his brain and body keep deteriorating, he didn't want to live like that. But it seemed to me that was just a, man, I hate how this is going kind of thing, because I
Yeah.
told him, yes, you do. Yes, you do.
Okay. We're going to send some deputies up to talk to you, see if we can search a little bit and see what's going on, okay?
Sure. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. This is April.
That's interesting. She seemed to know that, like, that he had left deliberately, it seems. That is kind of strange. And where did they get this call? I have to dig into that. Yeah, I just wanted to bring that update real quick before I got into the major story of the day. Got a few more after that too, but let's jump into this. First, the New York Times has to make a correction tomorrow. They have said that they're going to make a correction, but the New York Times said a North American treaty organization without America, it isn't called North American Treaty Organization. It's called North Atlantic Treaty Organization. But like, they printed this and the editor approved it. And it really, the fact that it passed through so many levels, which it would have had to at the New York Times, really speaks to the just Americentric minds of everybody, at least in the media here, how they really see the whole world in terms of America, is wild. They did correct. I don't know if this was. Yeah, no. They did say that they would. That was somebody who had just done that themselves, but they did say that they were going to be making a correction tomorrow, because it even made it into the print edition, which is wild. So let's take a look here. So yeah, there were a couple of planes that were shot down today. A couple. People are saying that this is probably like one of the worst days in U.S. military history in a very, very long time. So I think it was one that was hit. I think it was like a F-14 or something, F-15, yeah. And then one of the helicopters that was going to search for the pilot that's still lost, they got shot at by farmers with rifles, and they were actually hit inside the helicopter and had to fly the helicopter back to the base. They ended up making it, but still pretty wild. I have so yeah, an F-15, A-10, and 2 helicopters. Yeah, that lines up with what I was saying. Let's take a look at a couple of these clips that I've collected throughout the day and catch up on this a little bit.
Again, this is a fast evolving story, but here's what we know at this hour. A U.S. F-15 fighter jet, a combat vessel that seats 2, a pilot and a weapons systems officer, was shot down this morning over the skies of Iran. You can see pieces of it on your screen there. Earlier, officials confirmed to MS Now that one of the 2 people on board was thankfully rescued. Now, whether that was the pilot or the systems officer, we are still not sure. Also unknown, the whereabouts of that second person. And while there is plenty of reason to doubt anything said on the airwaves of Iran's state TV, we're going to note this. Earlier, a presenter read aloud a bounty reward for the capture of, quote, enemy pilots.
Yeah, there are people like scouring the countryside with weapons, searching for the pilot.
We understand that Donald Trump has been briefed on all of this. Last hour, he posted on social media, not with words of encouragement or a thought for the missing service member, but with this in all caps: keep the oil, anyone? That message merely 43 hours since he told the American people in a primetime address from the White House that U.S. goals in the region were nearing completion.
Yeah, I'm gonna go through pretty much all the channels and see what they're all saying. Here's a look at Fox and what they're saying on the other side.
Tom, do you expect that this second pilot
Then we'll take a look at Al Jazeera as well.
will be rescued in the next, say, day or 2?
That's another great question, Sandra. As your previous guest pointed out, the special operations forces that go in and do this combat search and rescue, they're geared up and ready for it. But they have to be careful because now there's, with all this media attention, with where the other, and there's even video, citizens on the ground, local population are videotaping the H-60 aircraft that are in the search and rescue mode. So they know the area, they know where they're going to be looking. There is the bounty that's posted. I think the pilot would be worth more to the IRGC or the weapons system officer if they're alive. So at this point, the pilot or the weapons system officer, whichever crew member it is, they're doing their best to escape and evade. They could be injured. They may have to go into hiding. That's kind of mountainous terrain or even urban terrain. If you land in the wrong spot, you hit a fence, you hit a rock, you break your leg. We don't know what's going on. So as a previous guest pointed out, we keep these crews in our thoughts and prayers, but recognize we are at war. This is combat. There will be losses, and we need to adjust our expectations with the understanding that we're doing the best we can.
Yeah, from what I understand, that on record, there has not been a military plane taken out in, decades, probably since World War II or Vietnam. And from what I understand, there have been some circumstances where planes went down, but they either blamed it on friendly fire or an accident or something like that, so they can keep their clean record and, continue to intimidate people with that. So, yeah, that's kind of at least what I gathered.
Again, keep in mind that the enemy or our adversary in this case gets 50% of the say on any of these problems. And I would like to point out that the IRGC is stating that the shoot down was over Keshem Island. So that's it. So Keshem could be, no telling where it's at.
Yeah. Well, Captain, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it. And thanks for your expertise. Top Gun pilot right there.
And a lot of this has happened because of the fact that there is some kind of new anti-aircraft system that they have, which is wild because, we just heard from Trump days ago that they can fly wherever they want, They have air superiority, as they say.
Colonel Gagne, what does this mean for U.S. jet strikes and other aerial missions moving forward?
That the skies are not as safe as they perhaps presumed. My guess is that this was daytime. My guess is that that the Iranians used what's called infrared. So they used detection that's passive, that used heat differences. The president did say that their radars rolled down, and so he probably can claim that legitimately. But the fact that there are still anti-aircraft kinds of capabilities that are based on heat temperature differences that can identify aircraft and still target aircraft is probably what got this F-15 down.
Colonel Gainier, what does this mean for U.S. jet strikes and other aerial missions moving forward?
Let's take a look at this other clip here on this same thing. And it's, going into this, many U.S. citizens were propagandized to think that this was like a very weak, primitive military.
There's something very crucial here. This is not the first time the Iranians are saying they're attacking or hitting American or Israeli fighter jets. It started on the 19th of March when they said they struck.
See, like Al Jazeera is actually showing the real footage instead of just like 3D renderings of the jets and pictures of the jets.
An F-35. Then from the American side, there was a report on an incident that took place with this plane and that the pilot was in stable condition. Later on, we heard about F-15, F-16, and now we're hearing about the F-35. Just a few days ago, there were pictures of one jet. I don't remember quite the number, but the jet was hit above the area of Sistan, Baluchistan, precisely Chabahar. And there were some videos showing how it was targeted. Now, there was a lot of controversy around this video. Today, it's clear that, yes, Iran has struck an American jet. And the IRGC said a few days ago that they've developed, after the 12 days war, they've developed a new system of anti-aircraft missiles. What's this system? Is it carried on the shoulder? Is it a system? No one knows.
Yeah, and it's kind of crazy that they could have been doing this all along, I guess, but they've just been kind of sitting back and watching them. I've seen some comments saying that, studying how they flew so they could kind of hit them by surprise at a certain time. But it's like, they allowed a significant amount of damage to happen to the country before they pulled out some of those cards. So, I'm sure they have been planning for a long war, and they have a strategy that, is built for that. But still, it's kind of crazy to think. Let's see what else I got on that. Apparently, the U.S. asked for a 48-hour ceasefire and was refused. I'm not sure why they would need I'm not sure if it's because of the search and rescue, perhaps.
News coming out of the Middle East, hearing in the last few moments from the Reuters news agency that Iran has rejected a US proposal for a 48-hour ceasefire. That's according to an unnamed source speaking to the Fars news agency. Iran rejecting a US proposal, apparently, for a 48-hour ceasefire. We'll keep across that for you.
So I'm seeing this here, that from CBS anyway, the helicopter carrying the recovered pilot was hit by small arms fire, wounding crew members of the helicopter on board. The helicopter landed safely. All service members are receiving initial medical treatment and will be transported for further medical care. And I guess, yeah, this is the article it's from. The kind of important detail here is that they're getting fired on by the general population that they were expecting, I don't really even think they were expecting this, but they were expecting to rise up and create this popular uprising against the regime there in Iran. That obviously didn't happen. It wasn't going to happen, and bombing people isn't going to increase the chances of that happening. But this just proves it right there that, you know, they don't want you there. And throughout the day, these planes were seen flying low over the countryside, searching for the survivor. And now this is that refueling plane, and it's got these 2 helicopters behind it. I find that kind of crazy too. Like, I don't know military equipment that well, but what's with the necessary, like, don't they have aircraft carriers nearby? Are they running out of fuel that quickly? I'm not sure why this is necessary. But yeah, there were tons of pictures and videos of this. Oh, thanks for that. I see. So that's how it all works, Zombie. Okay. There's also, and initially the Pentagon wasn't saying anything about this until a lot of images started circulating on Telegram, like this, showing, let's see, where else did I find that? Let me see if I had some more. See some of the pictures that people were sharing. Look at how and those people right there are probably trying to shoot at it. Yeah, you can hear them shooting, and you can kind of see them taking the stance that they would if they were shooting. So yeah, that is what's happening. That is wild. So yeah, those are, where are the other pictures that I saw? They were like, here they are. This is the wing, and it you see the word Europe on there, but it actually is like the United States Air Force in Europe, it said. Everything going down? That does appear to be going lower and lower. The thing about Epstein is that the files not coming out in the, like, the DOJ, like Todd Blanche yesterday said, we've released everything that we're going to. We're done. That hurts Trump, I think, just as much as, files coming out and having terrible stuff about him in there. Because of the fact that there is probably terrible stuff about him in there, but our imaginations are always probably going to be worse. Everybody's imagination is probably going to be worse. So we're going to continue. There's going to continue to be a ton of speculation. Nobody's going to trust him. Like, he's done until he can release something proving his innocence. And he's never really going to be able to do that in a tangible way. Because, obviously there's something in these files. And we've already seen plenty, but that's not even including the half that he held back. So this has definitely taken it out of the news for sure. I still try to cover it. I just put out a 9-hour video collecting all my Epstein stuff, if you haven't seen that yet. But yeah, it is. There's a lot of motivations. I don't think Epstein is the single motivation, but that is a happy accident for Trump for sure. And maybe it's somewhat of a motivating factor, but also Israel having him over the coals, and American imperialism in general, his donors like Miriam Adelson and others. So it was like a perfect storm of madness, this whole situation. See if we got any more clips of this. This is another one of these. This was apparently there was another video of it. Yeah. This labels it the A-10. This says it's an A-10 jet. That one apparently did not land in Iranian territory. I don't think this one was real or recent. Here's more pictures of the one that went down. Wild. See what else we got here. So yeah, I guess the rescue mission continues and will probably continue to be an issue. Let's see. Yesterday we were going over the Pam Bondi situation, and there were a lot of lawmakers kind of hypothesizing that this was a play to try to prevent her from testifying. I would definitely believe that they're trying to pull out any stop they can, but apparently that is not going to fly. Let's see. Since Pam Bondi is no longer Attorney General, Chairman Comer will speak with Republican members and the Department of Justice about the status of the deposition subpoena and confer on the next steps, a committee spokesperson said in a statement. Is that what he said? Let's see. This is a quote from Mace, actually surprisingly condemning her. She has weaponized the Department of Justice to protect Donald Trump, ranking member. Okay, yeah, so that's... It looks like they're trying to get her to testify, but it's still... still a bit up in the air. With it, I never trust the government to do anything, but especially with this administration, like, you can't trust a damn thing. I don't know much about this story yet. I just kind of saw it, and I thought it was kind of crazy. It was posted by mainstream local news too. A DC woman was arrested in the apartment building where she pays a monthly rent to live. She told 7 News the Channel Square Apartments that the Channel Square Apartments called the police on her after she tried to teach tenants about their rights. Tenants told 7 News that they feel this is retaliation for their reports and complaints about the conditions inside.
Unlawful entry. Unlawful entry. What do you mean unlawful entry? She's a tenant.
They're trying to arrest her for unlawful entry when she lives there.
You went to a tenant meeting and left in handcuffs.
Yeah, I was arrested for simply organizing and trying to have a tenant meeting to, again, address tenant rights there at Channel Square, because most of the tenants there, they aren't aware of who to call or when to call when these rights are violated. So the meeting was specifically based around just teaching them their rights and advocating for themselves through filing DOB violations and speaking with other agencies when necessary. A lot of tenants are not knowledgeable of that. So I wanted to bring awareness to that to the tenants, and the property management already knew that we were having a meeting. So they purposely blocked the elevators. They went down into the basement and blocked the community room where they stood in front of the doors, the property manager and the security. And they specifically told us that we weren't having a meeting.
I want to look more into this story. That sounds like some crazy shit. Channel Square Apartments. Yeah, like, especially she's a tenant there, like, and this is happening all over every city, man. These people are really getting screwed. See, a DC woman was arrested in the apartment building where she pays a monthly rent. She told the 7 News that, okay, yeah, I read that before. For the fiscal year alone, 7 News found that 61 reports of violations fight against property owners with the Department of Buildings. Geraldine Cunningham said she wrote letters, called, and emailed to get changes done, and feels she ended up in handcuffs because of that. The video of the arrest 7 News obtained from a tenant shows residents asking police why they were arresting her. I was arrested simply for organizing and trying to have it sent to me. To again address tenants' rights there at Channel Square, because most of the tenants there weren't aware of who to call or when to call when their rights were violated. The meeting was specifically based around just teaching them their rights. So she had a meeting where she was telling the other people to call this organization that holds these bad landlords to account. Well, tries to, but it seems like, even with how many calls, they weren't able to do anything. 61 reports. I mean, at least she was just trying something, and they arrested her for that. So yeah, I guess she's suing, and I imagine she's got to win. Residents still ended up having their meeting in the hallway. I was watching this video last night. Let's see if I could find it. Not sure if I can. Let's see. No, I can't find it. Maybe I'll put it on for tomorrow. But yeah, while I was just before I left for my break, I'm probably gonna have to get things rolling a bit again because of how things work on YouTube. But I put out this massive, almost 9-hour video of Jeffrey Epstein research. Many of you have probably already seen a lot of it because it is just all of the clips combined from all winter. And I think what I'm going to do is I'll probably do one for every season and have another one that I'll do in the spring. I'm sure that there'll continue to be information that pops up. It might not be a 9-hour video in the spring, because there was just so much released in the past couple months that we went through, but it'll still be significant because I'm still covering it on a regular basis. I also got these other deep dive videos, including the long ones here. The Cold War was World War III and how the CIA became the world's largest drug cartel. In the next week, I will be changing things up and going a little bit harder on the standalone videos. I have 2 that are currently planned that are a little bit more on the political side. Like, I'm working on one with one of y'all. I'll let y'all know when that launches, and then I have another one that I'm planning to release around the same time. So probably 2 next week, and I'm gonna shoot for like 2 standalone videos every week, not just clips. And I'll be streaming between Monday and Thursday, most likely, with some weekends. I just don't want to guarantee the weekends. I'll probably still end up streaming most weekends. I just want the option of doing my own thing or working on the videos more, because that's one of the main reasons, is because I really think that that's the kind of stuff that'll be good for the channel, is more of those standalone videos. And I find that when I'm explaining stuff during these streams, I'm not always even if I write down notes, I'm not always the best at explaining things in the moment. I do all right, but yeah, it was good to get away and do stuff. But I enjoy doing this too. So, but I think having a schedule like that's going to be a little bit better. And I really, really have a lot of fun learning to video edit. That's where my skills are really improving. And that's where I'm able to really express my ideas a lot better. I enjoy streaming. I enjoy the live factor of it, but I also stumble around for my words a lot, and I forget like sometimes really important elements of what I wanted to say. So I definitely like the ability to kind of put more thought and production into it. And that's what I'm kind of doing too. Like when I realized like, oh, this was a good topic that I went on a little bit of a rant about, but I need I need a little bit more organization to it. So yeah, speaking of my book, the next one is coming out very soon. I don't know if I'm going to get a publisher for it. I sent out like 50 letters to different publishers or different literary agents, because you got to get a literary agent first and then they find a publisher for you. So it's like 2 gatekeepers that you got to go through. But I'm not sure. I'm going to wait another month, because the next month I'll probably edit it down and do like 2 chapters a day. I've already edited like 5-6 times, but I need to go through like one last time and just kind of check it out. I don't know how you become a literary agent. That is like, I don't know how you get linked up like that. Some people start their own businesses and stuff, but you got to have industry connections somehow. I don't know how you do that, but we'll see. Some of the people say they take like 6 weeks to get back to you. I have dropped 6 books myself before on Amazon, and it's I want to get I want to get the marketing boost that a traditional publisher can get me. Because the thing is like, if there are a lot of benefits to a traditional publisher. Like if I publish it myself and I try to like get on different podcasts and get in front of bigger creators and bigger audiences, I'm going to have a really hard time just cold emailing those people. But, you know, a literary or a publisher will be able to talk to like the production managers at big podcast and get me in that schedule. That's kind of the stuff that they can really, really help with. But, yeah. But I mean, I'm still going to release it on my own anyway, but if I don't hear back, but I'm just doing that as a first option because I think that this one has a little bit more like mainstream appeal than my last few has, because before my books were like, you know, conspiracy books, anarchy books, and, you know, a book about, well, here's the conspiracy book. Here's the 3 anarchy books in one. And this is the rave book about me throwing raves and funding those raves illegal ways. But those were all kind of hard sells, I think, to literary agents because they were like, this is problematic for some reason or another. Whether it's like, oh, you're doing crimes or you're talking about anarchism. But this newer book is, I think it has a lot more mainstream appeal because it's about my journey through, you know, activism and how I was a part of a lot of these internet movements that ended up becoming many different things. And, you know, I saw a lot of those pipelines that were built into fascism through various different communities, and also navigating that as I was figuring out that I was autistic, shit like that. So yeah, I got to get a better elevator pitch for it, but you know, at like almost midnight on a Friday, when I wasn't necessarily planning to pitch it, I'm not, you know, doesn't have the best, but I still do got to do the synopsis and really breaking it down. But it does carry on that thread. It's what I had gone through with all that in the police accountability movement and the conspiracy movement, and you know, some of those like I was allied with the libertarians and stuff for a period of time. I never considered myself one, but I was allied with them because they were anti-war and anti-cop. So, but that kind of changed around the Trump era because a lot of them kind of just sold out and went for Trump, and really kind of abandoned the principles that they had in regards to social freedoms. They became like really really bigoted and traditionalist in that regard. But the book is kind of all about that and witnessing those things. And the intro videos that I have on this channel are actually taken from the book. So it's not word for word because I broke it down into verbal speech, but it's some of the main themes are of the book are in those videos. No, I never voted Republican. I never voted for a Republican in my life. I never voted for a Democrat either, though. I've only voted for the Green Party ever, and it was 20 years ago. I voted for Ralph Nader in 2004 when I was 18, because he was the only one who was against the Iraq War. And oh, you were saying you did. No. But yeah, Ralph Nader was the only one against the Iraq War. And then I voted for him and he got like 1% of the vote or something like that. And I was like, this is bullshit. You know, and then after that, I was like pretty hardcore anarchist, and around that, like I was radicalized by losing people I was close to in the war and stuff like that as well. But yeah. Yeah, they say that it pisses the vote away, but like there needs to be some kind of it can't continue to work with this two-party dichotomy. It's interesting we're seeing now though this whole thing with, you know, actual leftists trying to take over the Democratic Party, which I you know, I have mixed feelings about, because in many ways, like I like to see anybody pushed in a more progressive direction, but at the same time, you know what you're going to be somewhat co-opted, and there's all this drama right now about Hassan and how he is you know, interviewing Democratic politicians, and they're all pissed off about that because he's anti-Israel. All of the establishment is anyway. And it has been like the biggest topic of the week on all these social media platforms while this massive war is happening. And they're, you know, it's just interesting. It's interesting to see. Yeah, I mean, I don't like his uncle. I like Hassan. I think his takes are mostly good. I don't like his uncle. His uncle's terrible. But you know, with me, it's like if you're anti-war and you don't like the police and you don't trust the police, and you're good on social justice issues, like you're not anti-immigrant or a transphobe and shit, then like, you know, I generally will think that you're doing a good job. His uncle is Cenk Uygur. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I pronounced it right. But yeah, Cenk, I think is the other way. So yeah, he got some nepo baby business going on, but like he admits that. He is not the person. He is not the kind of person that I would ever hang out with. But when it comes, just because personality wise, like I'm not like a weightlifting guy. I don't even like the things that he's into personally. But as far as his takes, I you know, there are no deal breaker issues that that I disagree with him on. And you know, because he'll definitely like talk shit about conspiracy theorists and make fun of conspiracy theories and stuff like that, but I don't care about that kind of stuff. I don't build coalitions around conspiracies anymore. I used to, but yeah, I mean, I definitely like him politically, even though I'm not a Democrat. Like I said, the big issues for me that were important, he has good takes on. But what was that? I forgot what direction I was going to take with that. But yeah, I don't understand the derangement to him. Like I don't understand the massive, like the backlash that he's seen is kind of wild. Yeah, no, I had a thought in my head that escaped just because I smoked too much. It wasn't important though. Yeah, there's some other issues too. Like I disagree with him on guns. Oh yeah, the conspiracy angle. Yeah, like I for many years was like all into building coalitions around that, and like the conspiracies that people believe in were like the reason. I'm trying to like read while I'm thinking, not working too well. But yeah, like I thought that those were the things to build coalitions around, and then I realized that like nah, like I have widely different values than a lot of the people that believe in have the same ideas that I do about 9/11 or whatever. Um, oh, I can read for sure. I mean, if I couldn't read, I wouldn't be able to write. I'd be in big trouble. But but yeah, I mean, that's the as far as the stands go, that's this kind of parasocial media environment that we're in. It's it's very weird. Uh, like there's mobs of people that have these personalities that they cling to, and they swarm on anybody who says anything about them, you know. Yeah, I never was really that into TYT because of the fact that they were just very very mainstream, at least back in the day. And also, ironically enough, I dismissed them back in the day because they weren't into the conspiracy stuff, which is funny. And now that I don't build things around that, I dislike them for different reasons. Well, yeah, at this point, the stream that I had planned is over. I'm just like staying on and chatting and chilling. Um, yeah, and there is this weird thing where people coalesce around these personalities, and if you talk shit about any of them, like even any kind of criticism, they take it as a personal attack. And you know, as long as people aren't like spreading hateful bullshit, I will generally listen to what they have to say. And at least I'll take them in good faith. I haven't seen that much from Hassan's community, but maybe that's because I'm like a part of it. um but like I definitely see like that guy's Destiny has a pretty toxic community, but that's also because I don't agree with a lot of his takes. So I can see that there's always the bias there. um Yeah, people do very much get like sports teams with these creators. And the thing is like none of us know what the fuck we're talking about really. I mean, we're just all trying to figure this shit out. Uh you know, some people I guess are more well read than others obviously. You got people like Asmongold who don't have a clue what's going on. Um yeah, I mean there like I said, there are some issues that I disagree with like a lot of leftists on, but I don't care to fight them over it. Really, I can't even imagine what I agree. Like, you know, as Asmongold has all of my deal breaking issues, I disagree with him on. Like, he's anti-immigrant. He loves the police. He loves the military actions that the government's doing. Um, you know, uh, massive transphobe, like hates gay people, like says all this fucked up shit all the time. Yeah, and then with Hassan, he's like very big on gun control, which I disagree with, which I don't care about though. Like it's not a deal breaker. He's bigger on a lot of regulation than what I would be, because I think that a lot of regulations actually benefit corporations. And like, oh yeah, Hassan has a shitty like macho personality, and I don't like that. I'm just talking about their takes specifically, not their personalities or anything like that. But yeah, I think that a lot of those issues where I disagree with him, it's just like not deal breaker shit. Yeah, Asmongold is definitely a clickbait chaser. Definitely a clickbait chaser. Yeah. But the same people are profiting from all these influencers arguing with each other. Yeah, no, I agree. I don't think Hassan is a toxic masculine type. He's definitely more traditionally masculine than I am for sure. But that doesn't mean that he's on the hegemonic side of it. I think that we would just have different interests. That's all that I meant by that. It's the same thing with anime. I'm not a big fan of anime, and I know who he is, and I know he is. Kyle Kalinske was the only person that stuck up for us when we were at the Free Thought Project. I will show that video right now. Hold up. Not this one. Like, that's why, like, sometimes he has takes that I don't agree with. It's rarely a deal breaker thing, but yeah, see then Joe, I think it's just Hassan's personality that you have a problem with. Where is that video? Oh, okay, here it is. I think it's this one where I talked about Kyle Kalinske. Because they didn't want to lose him. It was a messed up situation, and I worked for this website called the Free Thought Project for years. It was my day job, and a lot of other people worked for them. There was another site called the Anti-Media that I worked for also, and we were all taken off the internet. Well, the reason why I said that is because Kyle has pretty much the same politics as Hassan for the most part. But here, Kyle was on Joe Rogan and was like, the people that you need to be paying attention to that got censored are the Free Thought Project and Anti-Media. And Rogan was like, oh, isn't that just like anti-cop shit? And people told me that, you know, they were just, it wasn't a good site or whatever. And literally, he was the only person who stuck that I worked for on air.
Speaking of social media, have you seen all these purges recently? There's a new round of it that just happened. No, who got purged? 800 or more accounts were purged from Facebook and Twitter, and they're almost all alternative media accounts. So some of the sites are, Snowflakes was one, I think, on Facebook. There's another one called Anti-Media that was purged. They're an anti-war media thing. Free Thought Project is another one.
I did hear about this, and there was Cop Watch.
Police the Police was one of them that was called. So basically, and what they're saying is, they said, oh,
yeah, Police the Police was another site. Police the Police was owned by the Free Thought Project.
We pull this is because it's inauthentic behavior. We're pulling these accounts because there's inauthentic behavior on those accounts. What does that mean? I don't know. That's the point. And
the inauthentic behavior was we were networking basically. So all of the activists that were anti-war, we would message each other and we would say, hey, if you let me post my article on your website or on your page, I'll share your article on my page. And it would just be like a cooperation agreement. But they accused us of inauthentic behavior for that, and they shut us all down.
Clarify. So what I think it means is, hey, these are alternative media outlets, and we want to get rid of them. So we're just going to get rid of them. So it is a scary time because you see that this can impact, really anybody who's not towing the line, if you will. Like, police to police, are we really going to, like, do we really think that they pulled that down? Not for the obvious reason, which is that you're sowing discord and the police don't like it.
As part of its purge, Facebook has removed the pages of several police accountability watchdog critic groups, including Cop Block, the Free Thought Project, and Police to Police. They've also apparently severely restricted the activity for the photography is not a crime page. Huh. So you think they're getting pressure from law enforcement?
Bradley Balco, by the way, is an amazing journalist. Has been for a long time. One of my favorite journalists. He covers mostly police stuff. He's great though.
Huh. So you think they're getting pressure from law enforcement?
I don't know, but I never usually believe in smoke-filled backroom conspiracies, but they're starting to get hard to avoid because there's so many of these things, man. If somebody's doxing somebody or somebody's directly threatening somebody and stuff like that, there should be a process set up where you can ameliorate that and do it quickly. But having said that, like, people forget, man, the ACLU used to defend the KKK in court.
That's what Ari brought up.
Yes, and they said, hey, in Skokie, they said, hey, listen, we don't agree with these people. We think they're heinous, we think they're terrible, we think they're dead wrong, but they have a right to say what they're saying because once you get rid of it for them, what people don't realize, Joe, is that these things will always come back against people who are powerless and marginalized. It's not like when you censor, everybody gets together and we all go, okay, so it's just the Nazis, right? Yes, it's just the Nazis. No, first of all, who's running these, these organizations? Obviously, they have their own opinions and their own vested interests and their own power dynamic issues, and they're going to take down whoever threatens their power.
It says all but proving the case that this was a coordinated attack by the tech giant community shortly after the purge on Facebook. Twitter followed suit, wiping out our profiles on there as well. They gave absolutely no reason for the suspension. So we had close to the Free Thought umbrella had close to 6 million followers. Wow.
Isn't that crazy? And they just decided overnight.
What's crazy is I didn't even hear.
Yeah, we had a massive platform.
Like, well, that's why I'm here.
Yeah, I appreciate you.
After getting that shout out, we thought that we were going to be contacted to come on the show on any moment. If we were able to get on a platform.
Yeah, so the next episode was basically he brought Tim Pool on instead, and then Tim Pool like low key threw shade on us because we kind of we weren't on great terms at that point, let's just say. But yeah, so that is an interesting kind of side note on Kyle Kulinski and why I will always kind of have some level of respect for him because, he went to bat for us on the biggest platform when nobody else did, even though we were ignored on that platform. But yeah, I think it's an interesting media landscape. I mean, this is why I went away for so long, because like I didn't know who I was going to kind of speak to, and I didn't know who I was going to kind of team up with and collaborate with. Even though I had teamed up and collaborated with many people over the years, and I am still very much friends with many of them. I don't want to speak to their audiences. I've spoke about this quite a bit, but like with me starting an entirely new channel after having other platforms that I can depend on, like the movements that I was associated with 10 years ago have went in drastically different directions than I have. And it was so difficult that I ran away, 5 years ago and went and got a day job in tech, and that kind of journalism was going away anyway, at least with paid jobs. So that is what it is. I wish I had started YouTube sooner and just like speaking out and trying to start a new platform, but I had never even considered that. I was just kind of like, this shit blew up. What the hell am I going to do now? I am just ranting at this point, but it is what it is. It's cool. Yeah. But yeah, that's why I'm coming back in the way that I am. And I'm not like pushing shit too hard. I'm just trying to build a core audience of people that kind of resonate with my values and the way that I want to approach things, because I feel like I do have a fairly unique perspective because of the movements I came from and was a part of and helped kind of create, and that I kind of went in a different direction than them. And I'm very serious about the the social justice angle of it, but also, I don't think that things were approached the right way in the past decade with trying to address some of that stuff. And I have kind of tried to take a different approach. I'm not exactly sure what that is yet, but it's like a little bit less scoldy and shit. You know what I mean? And, not getting too hung up on how I say things, but trying to deliver the message in the best way. And maybe that wasn't the right thing to say, because I do very, very intentionally select my words. But what I meant by that was that I don't get too bogged down into conforming with languages of certain certain political movements and stuff. Like, how it is, like, you can tell if you're talking to you can tell if you're talking to like a communist, because they use words like bourgeoisie and proletariat and praxis and shit like that, right? And when you're talking to a libertarian, because they say free market a lot, and they'll throw out statist or something like that. Like you know that at least somebody's in that milieu, and that's like a signaling thing. And I don't it's not always intentionally done. Am I an American? No, I'm an anarchist, but I think that anarchy is not going to happen in this lifetime. I don't think that it's a immediate political goal or solution, because there's so many immediate things preventing that from happening. And also, there needs to be some evolution of human consciousness, like, to be a part of anarchism coming to be. So I do think that people in the US should have health care. I don't think that businesses should be regulated extremely heavily. I do think that billionaires should be funding a lot of nice things in society that bring up people who are disadvantaged. But the issues I have with communism are the centralization of it. My international policies of positions is that one country should not be bullying all the other ones around. Oh, no way. No way. Actually, I would recommend, I definitely don't think that South American is just I think that every South American country should have self-determination, and, in a just world, would be owed reparations by the United States for all of the crimes committed. This video I have here, called "The Cold War Was World War III," Cuba open for business. Where is it here? Here I talk about South America and Operation Condor. This is 45 minutes and 42 seconds into this video. I talk about Operation Condor and how the CIA created terror campaigns to push out, governments that were not being cooperative with U.S. corporations. So I'm very much against that kind of stuff. And that's one of my main positions, I would say. But as far as anarchism goes, it's quite complicated, because for me, it's generally the opposition to hierarchies and the opposition to, forceful authority. So, you know, some people think the word authority means like you have authority in a certain field because you've earned a reputation or something like that. And I don't, that's not how I'm considering authority. I'm considering authority as in one person has authority over another person to tell them what to do, to tell them how to behave and stuff like that. So yeah, I believe in self-government, but at the same time, we live in this situation now. And, you know, I think that you will debate me on anarchism. Well, I mean, that's fine. I don't think that it can happen in this lifetime, but I do think that we should be working to dismantle hierarchies wherever they be, and I do think that we should not be supporting and upholding hierarchies. I think that they're bad for society. That is my position on anarchism. It's not a assumption of how an anarchist society would work or operate, because I don't think that that's happening anytime soon. I think that we would have those answers when we're a little bit closer to that point. But right now we live in this world with all of these crazy hierarchies, some of them very visible, some of them invisible. And one of the main things that I do is challenge them in any situation I can. And that's kind of how I approach it. But yeah, I used to have a very different kind of perspective where I thought that it was possible in this lifetime, partly because, you know, it was when the internet was first kind of creeping up, when social media was first coming to be, and we all thought that this new technology was going to bring the world together, that people were going to see past all of their differences and stuff like that, and that we were just going to interconnect, and that people were going to do direct democracy through the internet and all this shit. We had all of these really, really utopian dreams that were probably implanted into our heads by Peter Thiel somehow. You know what I mean? Maybe, you know, maybe that was maybe that world was a possibility, but, you know, after seeing how things played out, I feel like maybe I was a little bit young and naive to be thinking that. But yeah, that's why I don't really advocate for an anarchist society right now, flipping a switch and having that happen. But I do advocate for challenging and discrediting hierarchies. And I don't think that hierarchies are good. Which I think is kind of a more simple and realistic perspective on anarchism. It's not necessarily the one that I've always taken, but it's kind of the one I've grown into. Which, you know, happens. Yeah, I definitely agree. And I hope, I think that it'll be a long time for humanity to really get to, you know, it's a growing process. Like, as we grow as people, we grow as a species too. And I really try to stay optimistic in my hopes that, you know, we are growing out of this war thing. You know, and we're growing out of this destruction bullshit. Not in our lifetime, like I said, but I'd like to think that we're going in the right direction to some extent. Yeah, so I think, yeah, F-bombs, I think our debate on anarchism would probably probably not be much of a debate, because I'd probably agree with you on a lot of the impracticalities of trying to do that currently, and how it would leave many behind in the current situation. And that's why I think the most important thing now is trying to reduce the amount of violence in the world and trying to get people's needs met, and something about this inequality situation, which is absurd. You know, when people have the kind of money to have armies and shit, which is effectively what they're doing, what they have at this point, it's kind of crazy. We've gotten to a point, and like I said, I am fairly. I'm not like a communist. I wouldn't consider myself a communist, especially because of the centralization and stuff like that. But I think that people individually, I believe strongly in individual rights, but I also believe in collective upliftment. Yeah, 100%. They which think tank university? I do remember seeing that study that there was some, they predicted collapse in America by 2040. I depending on how you define collapse, I think it's a lot sooner. You know, there are many different versions of collapse. Like the empire could collapse, and you know, the US can be forced to shut down all of their military bases, and our GDP could be drastically reduced. But you know, how much of a decrease of quality of life is that going to cause for the average person? That part's actually debatable, because you could have a massive reduction of GDP in this country without actually affecting the life of the average person, because so much of the GDP is collected in like 20 people that those people losing a lot of money might not be that much of a bad thing in the long term. In the short term, can definitely have an impact on jobs for sure, because then people are going to lay off who they can to save every last morsel that they can. But yeah. Yeah, this is fun kind of hanging on. I should do this more often, hang on at the end and just riff on things a bit more. Yeah, I don't know. I think there's always the kind of blanket term of anarchy that's used to describe lack of government, chaos, and then also just lack of authority or control. It's one of those situations where we are limited by the amount of words, and probably intentionally. Yeah. That's why for me it's more of a state of mind than a political advocacy at this point. And that was another thing that was hard for me, because like I was like, first of all, with Trump, it was just shocking that the government like had taken a direction that I didn't expect. I had expected kind of the same lukewarm bullshit always. I didn't expect a acceleration straight into hell. I was not expecting that. And I also was not expecting, I am back on my normal schedule, but my normal schedule is going to be Monday through Thursday with some weekends now. Anarchy is an organizing principle where hierarchies become more of a community thing than a national thing, IRC. Well, yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where I think we're limited by the lack of words there. Because like what would you describe, is there a philosophy that we have a particular word for, where it's just resisting hierarchies, moving towards a non-hierarchical world? That's where the way I personally saw anarchism, at least as a philosophy. Now we can project what that will turn into, and maybe that's what you're saying. But yeah, the new schedule, I'm going to, the stream after party is a good idea. I like it. I could probably not do it every day because I gotta still gotta work in the mornings, usually early a lot of times. This week I had to wake up at 7 a.m. a couple times, so yeah, I definitely gotta prioritize that. But yeah, I'm gonna be cooking with the videos too. They will be, I have 2 coming out on, Terrence McKenna had this awesome quote, and he has so many, but it was like, we have invented so many words to describe an engine and the different parts of an engine, but we only have a small handful of words to describe human emotions. And that is like, you would think that we would be describing human emotions on a similar granular level, and we don't. And in the same way with these political philosophies, whether it's like liberal doesn't mean anything. Liberal can mean conservative, which is how I see it, or it could mean permissive, which is how most people see it. So yeah, we're really limited with the language that we have for these things. Yeah, that's a very good point. But yeah, I think the inability and the lack of words to describe the feelings that we have make things very difficult as well. But yeah, the thing that of course, I welcome non-Americans here, and I appreciate the views of non-Americans. I am not a very nationalistic person. I understand the, I mean, like, to give you an idea, when I travel outside of the country, I tell people I'm from Canada, and I have done that for over 10 years because I'm embarrassed of the things that this country does overseas. And domestically now as well, and just domestically in general. I mean, shit. So yeah, I welcome you, and I appreciate you being a part of the chat for sure. Yeah, and that is one of the things that I do get a lot of shit for usually, is because people people really identify with with the country that they've grown up in. And I can see some places, if but I don't understand here in the US the things that people take pride in, unless you grow up rich. If you grow up rich, and then I can see why you love yeah, I agree. There are many American leftists are really nationalist, but I would say American liberals more so than leftists, and there is an important distinction between those two. And I have a video coming out on that soon. Actually, kind of 2 videos that touch on that. So that should be interesting. Growing up rich can definitely suck, but I could see if you grow up rich having pride in America and thinking that it's the land of opportunity and shit. If you don't, is very weird to be taking pride in America because like the pain it brings. And it is especially bizarre how people really and I could be proven wrong with this, but I really don't think that the United States role as the world superpower that can bully people around actually benefits people here in the US. Because look at all this money that's being spent terrorizing all these people all over the world that could be spent on infrastructure here. So it looks like all those cyberpunk cities in China and shit, But that's not happening because we're bombing schools. Yeah, I mean, I consider communists to be allies, but I have my disagreement with them is not on specific issues. It's more so on how theoretically society should be organized and what level of centralization or decentralization it should have. Because a lot of communists believe strongly in centralization. Like you need a strong centralized government with, a figurehead and a bureaucracy kind of making things go. I think I would be more of a syndicalist where it advocates for a more decentralized version of that, if I were to recommend something as a transition step there. But yeah, that is my beef with communism. But when it comes to foreign policy and police and social justice, I tend to agree with them on everything. So I don't really let that small disagreement get in the way of an alliance with them. It's just not something that I personally subscribe to. But yeah, I did get to pitch some of my videos a little bit tonight. I definitely suggest checking some of them out if you haven't yet, especially these two. The Cold War was World War III and how the CIA became the world's largest drug cartel. These two were kind of me teaching myself how to video edit. And I was really proud with the content of this one, but the video editing sucks because it was my first one and I did it in iMovie. You admit you're technically a fascist? That's a wild one. Homework? I mean, you could pick up my books. I'm just joking. No, I mean, I would actually check out these videos. If you're interested in my take on the Cold War and the CIA becoming the world's largest drug cartel. Grantifa. Yeah, I was wondering about this because it didn't really take off. I was wondering if the thumbnail was good enough. I changed it a couple times, but I think I landed on an okay one. They're fine, Rowdy. They're fine. They're fine. It's all good. It might just be a no worries. There's no worries, brother. But yeah, so these three intro videos share a little bit about my background. Now, I think Gatto was just trying to establish if it was a safe place for him, and that's cool, or for them. I don't mind fielding those kind of questions. No, it's all good. I appreciate it. But yeah, I think I'm coming up on 2 hours now. So I think I might have mentioned everything that I wanted to get to today. Yeah, nah, we haven't had any issues with that. I'm surprised too, because I've gotten some people that have definitely gotten pissed off at certain things that I've said, or turned off by certain things that I've said, and just unfollowed, but they haven't trolled me. They've just unfollowed. And it is cool. It's all good. I'm in this early stage where people are figuring out if they can relate to me, you know, and that's cool. Yeah, I mean, it happens. I mean, you know, and that's one of the things, though, is like I said, I'm trying to approach things where even if somebody disagrees with me, I'm not gonna turn it into a thing. And usually the way I interact online is, even if somebody's mad, I'm just going to explain to them my position and be, you know, be as chill as possible about it as I can. I'm kind of in somewhat of a lucky position, I guess you could say, because, you know, a lot of the issues that I cover, they're personal to me in a way that I care about them very much, and I care about the world. I care about the people that are impacted by the issues that I'm talking about. But, you know, it's not like a like specifically triggering thing for me in most cases. So I can kind of maintain a certain level of composure to be able to hopefully explain things to people in a way that they might have not heard before if they're trolling me, you know? And I don't like getting elevated and raising my stress level, because, you know, my health can't take it. Life's too short for that shit, and I don't want to make it any shorter. But yeah, it has been fun tonight. Been a good Friday night, chilling with y'all. And yeah, I will be back maybe tomorrow night. I should be back tomorrow night. We'll see what happens. If there's some issues for me to cover, if some things blow up overnight, I'll be here. And if not, maybe I'll try to do something social. But, you know, who knows? I already had a little bit of a break, so I'm probably Monday night 100%. Yeah. Sunday night, I think I'm always going to take off now, though, because by the end of the weekend, there's hardly, like, I'm scraping the bottom of the barrel with things to talk about. And Monday mornings are always insane at work. So, and I always got to wake up early. So doing a nighttime stream, probably not the best idea on Sundays. But yeah, I'm surprised y'all chilled with me for this long, as I just bullshitted. But that's fun. I'll try to do it more often. And look out for hopefully 2 new videos coming next week. Catch y'all. Peace. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and check out my other videos. And if you have the ability and want to contribute, take a look at my Patreon, where you can find a subscription to my books and a bunch of other cool stuff, like the ability to send links in chat and access to closed rooms in our Discord server.